It is that time once again to fill out your waivers for your season-long teams. Heading into week number 4, we are here to break down those waiver decisions and get you set for those waiver claims tonight and take your questions live on air. This is the Waiver Wire Q&A right here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter channels. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for NumberFire.com, joined here as always by JJ Zacharyson, editor-in-chief of NumberFire and FanDuel. JJ, we are on to week number 4. How did week number 3 go for you?
It was okay. It was fine. I feel like I was a better tout than how my season-long teams, how my teams in general went, but it was an okay week. It was all right.
Yeah, I feel that very much so. As someone who had some Justin Fields issues, I can understand, relate to, things being not ideal. But hey, that's why we're here for week number 4, potentially talking Justin Fields once again, because he's facing the Lions and not the Browns this time around. As always, we are taking your questions no matter where you are watching. Get your questions in via YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or Twitter. We'll take questions wherever you are. We can talk about your waiver claims, talk about sentiment, talk about if you want to deal some dudes, stuff like that, what to do with players going forward. As always, get those questions in. If you want to talk some MLB DFS, we'll be doing that at 4:30 today. Let's start the questions off over on YouTube by talking to Daniel, asking for Davonte Smith's rest of season outlook. Davonte Smith, pretty quiet overall last night, as was the entire Eagles team, but it still seems like he's a pretty focal or pretty major part of that Eagles offense. So JJ, what is your outlook for Davonte Smith going forward?
Yeah, I mean, look, he had a 25% target share in week 1. He had over a 30% target share in week 2, and then he gets Diggs this past week. He has about a 16% target share against Dallas, a defense that, we thought was going to be one that we would attack pretty aggressively entering the season, I would say. And, they're playing better than we expected. So, that's happening. Well, but this week, from a rest of season standpoint, don't sell Davonte Smith right now, because this week they get Kansas City, a game that should, they should see a negative game script, or they could see a negative game script. And if they do, it's more passing, and the matchup is going to be pretty favorable for the passing attack against Kansas City, who's been very beatable, both on the ground and through the air. The defense has just not looked good. So Davonte Smith, if he sees like a 25% target share this week, which wouldn't be shocking, I think that he's a really good play.
Yeah, I think that it's also hard to, if you're looking at in terms of like, if you like want to bail on someone, I wouldn't be bailing on someone the day after they had a pretty, public fall down that led to a pick 6. That's not going to lead to the best sentiment. The sentiment on the Eagles offense is not great right now. So now is not the time to sell. And Davonte Smith still got a good outlook. I'd agree there. Daniel also asking us to rank the Titans, Bears, Dolphins, and Bengals defenses for this week. The Bengals are facing Jacksonville. The Dolphins facing Carson Wentz and Indy. It's a Jacoby Brissett revenge game. I'll let you know that. The Bears are facing Jared Goff, and the Titans facing off with Zach Wilson and the Jets. How would you feel about those defenses there, JJ?
I think I like the Bears the most of that group, mostly because, you're looking at units that haven't necessarily, I think of the units here, the Bears have probably played the best. I know that seems kind of counterintuitive, but week 1, they get the Rams. What do you expect? No one's really doing well against the Rams right now. Week 2, they do really, really well against the Cincinnati Bengals. Last week, they still weren't terrible against the Browns defensively. It's just, what do you expect from a team that's going to see that kind of game script just in general? I think I'm going to go with Chicago there at 1, probably go, I guess, Cincinnati at 2, Tennessee at 3, and Miami at 4. But I think that you can make an argument for any of these teams realistically. That's just kind of off the top of my head how I would probably rank them.
Yeah, I think that they're all options, which is good for the waivers this week. Like, you've
really
got
good
options.
Defense week.
Yeah, for sure. I think with Cincinnati, I've been impressed with their defense overall. And they do play Thursday. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing for them, but the defense is playing well. And I think that's a benefit for them too. Let's talk to Yalekins. Probably said that wrong, but whatever. Let's give it a shot over on Twitch. What percentage of your free agent budget are you spending on Chuba Hubbard if you have Christian McCaffrey on your team? And they say they appreciate it. Thank you, Yalekins. Again, not sure how to pronounce that, but either way, we appreciate it as well. So Chuba Hubbard going to be filling in for Christian McCaffrey for probably at least this week, potentially longer than that. What are you doing with Chuba Hubbard this week on waivers?
Yeah, I think that you kind of answered that, Jim. Where he's going to play this week for sure. We don't know what's going on next week, or maybe the week after that. But the bottom line is, teams usually, if a player is going to miss 3 weeks, they will put that player on IR. And Christian McCaffrey right now is not going on IR, which tells me that this is not a serious injury. And I know that it seems serious when it all happened on Thursday night, but you also have to keep into consideration the fact that they were playing Houston. That game was likely gonna finish in Carolina's favor, and they're not gonna, given what happened last year with CMC, they're obviously not gonna rush him back onto the field. So the fact that he's not on IR means that I think that other people are going to end up spending more on Chuba Hubbard than I'm willing to. I think a correct, we talk about this every week where like a FOB bid depends on, what your waiver wire pool looks like every week, how deep your league is, how many teams there are, all that kind of stuff. I think at the end of the day, I wouldn't spend more than like 15% on Hubbard this week. And I know that others are thinking, I've seen recommendations of like 40 to 60% for Chuba. And I'm just like, look, I understand. I think Chuba is probably going to be an RB2 from like a ranking standpoint and how we view him going into this week against Dallas. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that like Chuba's a bad play. I'm just saying that this is an Alexander Madison-esque type situation here where, last week Dalvin Cook doesn't play. There was a decent chance that he wasn't going to play. And so people were into Alexander Madison, getting Madison off the waiver wire. Madison had a better matchup this past week than what Chuba Hubbard's about to see against Dallas. And so, I'm not going to go super, super hard after Hubbard, and maybe that bites me at the end of the day, but I'm trying to be as logical as I possibly can. And reading between the lines here seems to show that CMC is likely going to be back in 2 or 3 weeks. And that's going to be the extent that you have Hubbard. And then the other thing, just keep in mind, I do think Hubbard's going to be the clear running back in this backfield. But don't discount the fact that they do have Royce Freeman there too. And there is some variance in the projection that we have for a guy like Hubbard. Now, again, don't twist that. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm 100% saying that Hubbard is likely to be the 1A, the guy in that offense. But, I don't think that we can just naturally assume that he's going to be CMC in terms of usage with Royce Freeman, another capable back who still played some snaps after CMC went down, with Royce Freeman back there as well.
Yeah, the snap distribution was 38 for Hubbard to 11 for Freeman, I think, after McCaffrey got hurt, if you include penalties and stuff like that. So it was very much skewed towards Chuba, 10 carries, 5 targets in that time. Good red zone usage. But the good thing, too, is you could put 10 to 15% down on your free agent budget and still get him. Like, it's not a guarantee you don't get him. Yeah. So, like, you can be conservative and still get him. Just kind of keep your league mates honest. Put that claim in, even if you might not win it, just to, keep them honest effectively. So to Kenny on YouTube, should I trade Alvin Kamara for DeAndre Swift and DeAndre Hopkins? Receivers here are AJ Brown, Amari Cooper, and Robert Woods. Pretty nice. I guess AJ Brown's hurt now, though. Running backs are Mixon and Najee. So trying to move Alvin Kamara for DeAndre Swift and DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins dealing with a decreased target share, dealing with a rib injury. Things were spread out in Arizona now. Swift is getting a great role, but in a questionable at best offense. So what would you view this trade here, JJ?
I think this is a smash. I usually go for the 1 in a 2-for-1, but in this, I'm going for the 2. And I say that, you mentioned the Lions offense, being questionable. The Saints offense is kind of questionable. I don't know how good the Saints offense is. The Saints right now through 3 weeks, they have averaged 20.3 team targets per game. That's 4 less than any other team in football right now. They have the lowest pass to rush ratio, pass rate in the league right now. They're very run heavy in neutral game scripts. That seems like it would benefit a guy like Alvin Kamara. But what it does is that it just slows this offense down. It makes them not run as many plays. They're playing in closer games because they're going to try to win with defense, and they need to win with defense with Jameis Winston. And look, Winston's been fine. I'm not saying that like they're like a horrific offense, but I don't know if it's like significantly more of an upgrade over what's going on with Detroit. And then on top of that, Detroit right now has a 33% target share going to their running backs, which is something that, like, yes, it would be like a top 5 number if they sustain that since 2011. But they don't really have alternatives there. And DeAndre Swift is very, very good.
They told us they were going to do that. Like, this is not a surprise.
And this is an Anthony Lynn thing. We've talked about this on the show. Anthony Lynn has a thing for running backs for obvious reasons.
Used to be a running back. Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. And so like, I think here's my general take here. I wouldn't be shocked if this is a PPR format, let's say. I wouldn't be shocked if DeAndre Swift outscored Alvin Kamara from here on out. Like, do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. Would I be shocked? Not at all. I mean, DeAndre Swift is seeing awesome usage. And so the fact that you're getting DeAndre Hopkins on top of that, given your wide receiver situation, especially with Robert Woods basically being Van Jefferson, AJ Brown being banged up, like just go for it. I think this is a smash trade. I would do that all day.
Okay, let's stick with DeAndre Swift here and talk to Jerry over on Facebook. He got an offer for DeAndre Swift in exchange for Zeke and Renfrow. I'm not totally sure which side Jerry is on here. So would you prefer the Swift side of this one or the Zeke and Renfrow side of this one?
This is just one of those like musical chairs trades where like, you know, nothing's really like happening. You know, you're doing a 1-for-1 here because Renfrow is just a waiver wire guy. He's just a bench guy, some depth. So this question really comes down to who do I prefer rest of season between Zeke and DeAndre Swift? I think you could argue that if it's a PPR format, I would go DeAndre Swift because Zeke is just not seeing that work. But if it's more of a standard league, I'd probably prefer Zeke because I think that the rushing upside is certainly there for Zeke. The touchdown equity and the touchdown upside is certainly there. This idea that like Tony Pollard is so significantly better than Zeke, I think is just false. I think both of them play their role very, very well in that offense. And it's arguably, I mean, maybe outside of Cleveland, it's the best 1-2 punch in football right now. I mean, it's hard to really find.
Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, I guess right. No, because Nick Chubb's really good. I should. That's disrespectful to Nick Chubb. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, outside of this, so this is a PPR league. That makes it a lot more difficult. I would see if I could get more because I think that from a market standpoint, people would value Zeke more than DeAndre Swift. But keep in mind that I do think it's pretty close. I mean, I would not be shocked if, again, especially with Zeke, I wouldn't be shocked if DeAndre Swift outscores him. I might honestly just prefer Swift straight up rest of season in a PPR format. But I do think from like a market standpoint, especially Zeke coming off the game that he just had last night, I think that you could get more than Hunter Renfrow being that added piece.
So talking about the Zeke versus Pollard thing, Tony Pollard does lead all running backs in rushing success rate, minimum of 25 carries so far this year. So rushing success rate, a number fire metric, just, seeing how often they increase the team's expected points for the drive. He is number 1, but Zeke Elliott is number 3. So it's not like Zeke's some stiff. He's just, they're both used in fun ways.
And we have to be realistic. Like the types of touches that Tony Pollard is getting
are conducive to that.
Are conducive to things like that. They're manufactured. They're getting him the ball in space a little bit more. Zeke is between the tackles, between the guards runner, honestly. And he like that's how they utilize him. He's their workhorse. And this idea that like Tony Pollard should just take over the backfield, I just think doesn't make that much sense. Week 1, we didn't see that much out of Zeke because they played a really good front. And we shouldn't have expected much. We didn't really get a good sample size of him, but the last 2 weeks, Zeke has looked good on the ground, like just as a running back. So I'm not really concerned about Zeke. I like both Zeke and Pollard. I mean, it's just one of those we see this, every now and again where we get these backfields where both guys are viable. Think back to like the Atlanta days with Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman. Obviously we've seen this with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb last season and such. I think that's just what this is now with Dallas.
Yeah. And, putting on my film bro hat, Zeke's looked good this year. He's looked fine.
He's looked good, man. Yeah.
He's getting a lot of red zone work. He had 8 of 16 chances inside the red zone last night, 3 of 8 the week before. So he's getting red zone work. Touchdowns will be there. Zeke's fine. Let's talk to Daryl over on Facebook. I'm streaming quarterbacks this year. Who would you want rest of season? Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins? Now, Kirk Cousins was a sell at 15 transactions for you, JJ, but this is not like a situation looking to trade them. It could be just which one do I want to hold? But Derek Carr also playing pretty good football right now. So it's not a bad problem to have. Who do you prefer here between Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins?
Look, I had Kirk Cousins as a sell this week in the 15 transactions article and podcast. And the main reason being, there's 3 things that I usually look for whenever I'm trying to see if I should sell a pocket passer. Because obviously Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, they don't run that much. So like from a pocket passer standpoint, you're looking at touchdown rate. Kirk Cousins' touchdown rate right now is basically in line with what he did last year. But keep in mind, last year was easily a career high for him. That's touchdowns divided by attempts. And then also look at how their offenses are doing. Just in terms of how often they're scoring overall touchdowns. So, one of the things you can just simply look at is pass to rush touchdown ratio. And if that's skewing one way pretty dramatically, like we see right now with Minnesota, and I'm blanking on the other team that is doing that with that's happening
Cincinnati,
to as well.
Maybe?
Yeah, Cincinnati. Yes, thank you. Cincinnati is the other team that's happening to. that generally regresses. So Minnesota right now has like an 8 pass to rush touchdown ratio. And that's something that we don't see. We've seen like twice over the last 10 years. So Kirk Cousins is going to regress. He's also throwing a touchdown on every like 114 passing yards when the average over the last decade has been 160. And so like, those are the things that, Kirk Cousins is not going to keep this up. Is Derek Carr going to keep this up? I don't know. I'm going more with my preseason take and feeling about these guys. I'm going to go with Cousins still for 2 reasons. Number one, I think that Minnesota is more likely and more conducive to shootouts than LA is at this point. And number 2, I like the weapons in the Minnesota offense a little bit more than I do with Vegas. And that's really what this comes down to. I think it's actually pretty close to a coin flip from here on out, just given the way that Derek Carr's been playing.
I would pick Cousins too. The one thing I would say in favor of Carr is Michael Leone of Established the Run tweets out a neutral situation pass rate graphic each week, which is a cool graphic. But I think the Raiders are second in situation neutral pass rate right now. So like John Gruden, that's analytics amazing. Friend, but also like Derek Carr's chucking it deep. So I agree. I'd go Cousins because of the shootout juice, especially like this week against Cleveland. That game's gonna be nuts. Kevin Stefanski revenge game, but I think that Carr is really interesting too. Let's talk to Derek on YouTube. Is Juju Smith-Schuster droppable in 12-team leagues? Manuel Sanders is on waivers. Sweet. Cole Beasley, Hunter Renfrow, pretty fun guys. Juju is banged up. Juju still has a good role when he's healthy, but what would you do here if you've got those good guys on waivers?
Yeah, I mean, like if we're being completely objective here, and you remove the names, you're looking at, especially Cole Beasley. Like Cole Beasley is Juju Smith-Schuster from a production standpoint. Like it's not that dramatically different. I'd say the biggest difference would be that Juju has a little bit better of a red zone presence than Cole Beasley does. But from a, Juju's probably going to see slightly bigger target share, but the offense in general is just better in Buffalo. I can make the argument for both Buffalo guys, I think, here versus Juju. Hunter Renfrow has seen an uptick in target share versus last year, but it's not dramatic enough for me to be like, yeah, we got to go all in on Hunter Renfrow and his 17% target share in this Raiders offense. But, Cole Beasley, who's going to see probably a 20% share in this offense. Manuel Sanders is going to see a 17% share in this offense while seeing this like absurdly deep high ADOT and seeing all this deep work. I think that you can make the argument, this is one of those like psychology things where if Juju ends up like just going off and playing well, you'll be upset that you dropped him for one of those 2 guys. But, if you, like, for instance, he's banged up, like you said, and if you really need a wide receiver this week and you're in a fairly shallow league, I think it's okay to drop him from one of those. If it's a PPR league, I think you can go with Beasley for floor, for safety. But I think Sanders in a half in a standard league is probably the play just because of where he's seeing his targets. He's still being targeted a good bit. And like you said, the where he's seeing his targets, he's seen 7 of his 20 targets have been 15 plus air yards. I mean, he's getting down the field and that's how they're utilizing him. So I could make the argument for sure. If Juju like doesn't play this week, then I would drop him for one of those 2.
Well, I would also say too, like, who would you rather attach your fantasy assets to, like Josh Allen or Ben Roethlisberger? And right now I know what my answer to that is. And it's not Ben.
You just gotta be realistic.
Yeah, let's talk to Deesh over on YouTube. 2 quarterback league. They have Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Fields. Would you drop one of the final 2 quarterbacks for Taylor Heineke, Jacoby Brissett, Mac Jones, or Zach Wilson? Now, Heineke is a good matchup this week, but that would be tougher for me. I feel like I'd still be holding on to the 2 rookies despite the trouble, despite the struggles they've had. What about you, JJ?
Yeah, same. I mean, look, Justin Fields was bad last week. I'm not trying to say he wasn't bad, but Matt Nagy's game plan was horrendous. I mean, it was the exact same game plan that he threw out there and has thrown out there for Andy Dalton. There wasn't any extra help from a protection standpoint. And that didn't allow Justin Fields to really escape the pocket. There were like, I watched that game back and like, he wasn't even rolling out of the pocket. I mean, it was like, what do you do? Like, this is your franchise guy who, has wheels. He ran a 4.44 40 at his pro day, and you're just letting him be a pocket passer in his first ever start against one of the best D lines in the league. Like, what are you doing right now?
And your left tackle is 39 years old and was fishing a month ago. Ago.
Yeah. You have a banged up offensive line, and it's an offensive line that's been really ineffective the first 2 weeks of the season. Like, you got to be at least a little bit more creative, and you got to hope that creativity comes. But I think Trevor Lawrence is still a better bet than, I would hold on to Justin Fields just to see if that comes together and hits. And then I'd say Trevor Lawrence is just a better option than the other guys. I mean, at least with Lawrence, like he's not afraid to chuck it deep. And we know that, interceptions aren't going to count as much as touchdowns will in terms of hurting your team versus helping your team. Trevor Lawrence is fine. He's probably like a solid QB2 from here on out.
Yeah, I'd agree. Let's talk to Kenny over on YouTube. Should I trade Myles Gaskin for Brandon Ayuk in full PPR? Gaskin has had an underwhelming role so far. Ayuk finally got basically a full-time role back on Sunday Night Football. He got some work. I still feel like he's probably going to be the number 3 piece in that offense behind Debo and Kittle, as long as those two guys are healthy. But he did get he was getting routes again. So what would you do here? Gaskin versus Ayuk?
I just feel like you could probably get a little bit more for Gaskin. I think it's a fair enough trade, though. I'm mostly, though, just saying this from the perspective of the scarcity of the running back position and the fact that Gaskin's still seeing some work, and hopefully Tua is back eventually, and hopefully the offense, can move the ball consistently. I think it's fair, though, overall. I mean, Ayuk has upside. I mean, he still has that upside. He was really, really good last year. I think it's a fair enough trade. I don't really lean one way or the other too strongly.
Okay, let's move to Sebastian on YouTube. 12-team Superflex. So you've got Christian McCaffrey being offered DJ Moore and Chuba Hubbard for Stephon Diggs, and they're pretty thin at running back. Stephon Diggs still has a good role for this Buffalo offense. What are you doing? But DJ Moore's had a ton of targets for Carolina as well. So what do you do here, JJ?
So props to the person that's proposing this trade to Sebastian. This is exactly what you should be doing. If you have someone like Chuba Hubbard, you look and you don't have CMC, you go to the CMC manager and you say, hey, I'll give you Chuba Hubbard and DJ Moore, and I'll be able to upgrade my wide receiver spot to Stephon Diggs. And I know that some people might not see that as that significant of an upgrade at wide receiver. And, I love DJ Moore. And Moore is seeing an awesome target share in that offense. But, realistically, Stephon Diggs' target share isn't that significantly different than DJ Moore's right now. And I'm going to put my faith in Josh Allen a lot more than I'm going to put in Sam Darnold. Darnold's been fine, but obviously, it's Josh Allen versus Sam Darnold. The one thing too with Stephon Diggs, he was a buy this week for me in the 15 transactions column. And the main reason for that is the fact that he's seeing that good target share. He's like a 26.5% target share. It's not as high as his 29% one last year, but it's still fairly high. I mean, a 26.5% target share is good. He has 8 deep ball target or 15 plus air yard targets this season. He's converted one of those 8. Whereas last season through week 3, Stephon Diggs had 7 of those targets and he converted every single one of them. So we're looking just at that's literally the difference between this year and last year for Stephon Diggs is that he was converting those intermediate and deep balls where he just hasn't yet. That's going to come with time. And the other thing too, I should point out, Derek Carty hit me up on Twitter and quote tweeted something about Stephon Diggs this week that I tweeted. And he mentioned that 2 of the first 3 games for Buffalo were in games that had 15 plus mile an hour winds too. Right. And that could play into why Josh Allen has not connected as well on the deep ball. So Houston is a get right game, I think, for Stephon Diggs. What I'm saying here is I would hold Diggs because like I said earlier, I think Hubbard's like a 2-week play as opposed to like an 8-week one.
Yeah, I think the wind on Sunday was like 15 to 20, and we've done research on wind at Numberfire, and anytime you get wind 15 to 20 miles per hour, players underperform their projections by about 7%. So it does matter a lot, and that was the case on Sunday. Like they were talking about a lot during the broadcast too. So that was impacting things on Sunday. Let's talk to Tanantha. Would you trade Nyheim Hines for Brandon Ayuk? So Gaskin, I would rate pretty well above Hines. Hines has like a role. I mean, he's getting some work, getting some yardage, finally got some red zone work in on Sunday, but still not like a huge thing there. Indy kind of looking like there might be a more negative script than you would hope as well. What are your thoughts on Hines versus Ayuk?
I think it's fine. Again, one of those trades where, especially in a half PPR, if it was a full PPR league, I think that it would be maybe slightly different, but I think it's fine. I would probably lean Ayuk there. The other trade though, where it's Tim Patrick and Latavius Murray for Ayuk, give me the Ayuk side on that one all day because you're basically just taking depth pieces. Nyheim Hines at least has flex appeal. From here on out, Tim Patrick is tough to trust, and he's going to be irrelevant once Jerry Jeudy comes back. Latavius Murray, tough to trust because of what we saw this past week with the backfield, the way it was split between the 3 guys, and even Tyson Williams not seeing the work that we know that it's just going to be a headache week to week. just give me Iuke all day for something like that. If you're able to do those 2-for-1s where you're giving up 2 bench assets to upgrade, even if Iuke would be a bench player, do that all day long.
Okay, let's go to Milo over on YouTube. Is Laviska Shenault worth dropping for the likes of a Tim Patrick, Hunter Renfroe, Zach Pascal, or a AJ Green, Christian Kirk on the waiver wire? I mean, Christian Kirk and AJ Green are pretty interesting out there. Obviously, you talked about Hunter Renfroe in 15 transactions. Tim Patrick may be forced into a lot of work with KJ Hamler now done for the year. We talked about Shenault last week. Role didn't get much better in week number 3. What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, it's just tough to imagine the Shenault role being anything more. I mean, Shenault is like Chenault's base. I mean, we talked about this last week. I mean, they're using him like they wanted to use Travis Etienne, like they wanted to use Kadarius Toney before they were sniped.
Do you imagine what Cordero Patterson would do if he were with Urban Meyer?
Yeah,
like,
right.
He'd be getting like 30 touches a game. That'd be
right,
sick.
exactly. So, Chenault's usage just is not very attractive to me. So I would go with one of the Arizona wide receivers. I think that the safer option of the two, I think AJ Green's just a safer option of him and Christian Kirk, because I can see a scenario where Rondale Moore gets more and more work, and they don't necessarily utilize Christian Kirk as much, but AJ Green is not a threat, or Rondale Moore is not a threat to AJ Green because of where AJ Green lines up on the field. And so I guess AJ Green is like the safer play versus Christian Kirk off the wire, but if you want to go with Kirk, I have no problem with that, but I would prefer either of those Arizona wide receivers over Laviska Shenault at this point.
Again, tie your players to good offenses, and Arizona's real good right now. Let's talk to David over on YouTube. Would you hold Mike Williams or try to sell high? Mike Williams has been awesome, but he's been awesome supported by really good underlying data. And again, tying your guys to good offenses. So for me personally, I'm hanging on. What are you doing with Mike Williams here?
Yeah, I mean, but here's the problem too with guys like Mike Williams. And I talked about this this is like to a way lesser degree, but I talked about this about Michael Pittman in the 15 transactions article in podcast today, where these guys have great peripherals. I mean, Mike Williams is converting a lot more than Michael Pittman is right now, but Pittman has seen like a 33% target share over the last 2 weeks. You have these guys who have really good peripherals. In Mike Williams' case, he's been one of the best fantasy wideouts in fantasy so far this year. But I still don't think that the sentiment across the fantasy football world is that Mike Williams is a wide receiver 1. And he is a wide receiver. Him and Keenan Allen are both wide receiver 1s in fantasy football right now. And, I don't think that selling that you're going to yield that. I think that most people are going to say, he's just playing a little bit out of his mind to start the season. He's probably more like a high-end wide receiver 2, mid-range wide receiver 2. So I'm going to give something that's along those lines. But I don't think that's the case. I think that he's probably a lower end wide receiver 1, he might be a mid wide receiver 1 from here on out, just given the usage, given the offense, given everything that we've seen so far. So I don't think he's a sell, because I don't think the sentiment around Mike Williams is positive. Like I think it's still fairly new. I mean, look at like his percent roster this past week on FanDuel, look at his cost on FanDuel, and still seeing that percent. I mean, like, people should have been all in on Mike Williams last week, and they just weren't, because it's Mike Williams. So I would not be trying to sell high right now, because I don't think people realize that this is a for real thing.
Also, having good players in your team is a good thing. It's okay to
just
hold
enjoy
the good
it.
players.
Enjoy Mike Williams. Enjoy Mike Williams, David.
I will. I guarantee you I will enjoy Mike Williams. Let's get to one more here from S. Bruner. I had seen another question on Miles Sanders, but let's talk to S. Bruner on Twitch. Would you trade Miles Sanders for Mike Williams? So we just talked about Mike Williams and liking him. Miles Sanders didn't get a lot of work last night, but he was on, I think, for 80% of the snaps through the first 3 quarters. I feel like I want Mike Williams here, and I don't know if that's an overreaction, but what about you? Okay.
It's not an overreaction. Miles Sanders is fine. He's good. Like, he's a solid RB2 in fantasy, I would say, and he's efficient. And we know that he can break a big run with every carry. But the fear with Miles Sanders is twofold. Number one, what we saw last night with just the offense being sort of inept to start the game. I know that they kind of came together and rallied in the fourth quarter. And they were, like, Jalen Hurts was still fine from a fantasy perspective. But the offense is a little bit questionable. It's like an average offense. Then on top of that, we've seen Kenneth Gainwell be utilized as the third down back, the negative game script back quite a bit. And that hurts Miles Sanders. I'm going with Mike Williams here. You got to remove where you drafted these guys around this point in the season. Mike Williams, the peripherals are there. Everything's there. I already talked about it. I think that he is a much more solid asset in fantasy right now and moving forward than Miles Sanders.
And with Miles Sanders too, I think that there are enough concerns there where you can just take, again, the fun asset. Like,
Yeah.
I've had a lot of Miles Sanders in my life. It's very frustrating. So just take
Yeah.
Mike Williams and enjoy it. That is all the time we have for JJ for today. We're going to go to our MLB DFS Q&A here in just one second. But first, JJ, I appreciate the time. Good luck on your waivers and good luck to you in week number 4.
Thanks, Jim. See you guys.
All right, so check out JJ's work by searching for the Late Round Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can find Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. You can also find it up on numberfire.com in text form, and follow JJ on Twitter at Late Round QB. Let's move now into our MLB DFS Q&A for this Tuesday main slate. As always, you can get your questions in wherever you are watching, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter. We'll take it from anywhere to get you set for a really fun slate in MLB DFS for today. Let's go over here and check out the pictures for today, which show why this is a fun slate. We've got guys like Chris Sale here. We've got Charlie Morton versus Zach Wheeler. Brandon Woodruff is pitching. We have got Logan Webb, Yu Darvish, Walker Buehler. It's a pretty sick slate. A lot of good pitchers for today. I'm into a lot of them, so we can take questions on pitchers. We'll start things off, though, with DJ over on Facebook asking about Chris Bassett facing the Mariners. I would cross him off, DJ, not because of Bassett himself. Bassett is a very good pitcher. I'd cross him off due to pitch count. He has had one start back from his facial injury. Went 48 pitches in that first start back. I'd project Bassett probably somewhere around like 70 or so tonight. The A's need to win this game. So, they're going to let Bassett go as long as he can. The problem is I'm just not sure how long the quote-unquote can part of that is. So to me, DJ, cross him off for today. Go back, hopefully in the playoffs. I'd love to watch the A's there. Probably not going to happen, but next year is a good time to go back to Chris Bassett. Good pitcher, just not a good pitch count for right now. Let's talk to Kyle. How would you stack the Rockies and Red Sox together? Having trouble putting full stacks together with them. So let's go over here and check out some lineups here for the Red Sox. I'm assuming this is a salary thing, Kyle, if I had to guess, just because, we got these good pitchers for today, and the Red Sox they're not cheap. It's very difficult to stack them for sure. Okay, we've got Iuke, Renfroe, Devers, Bogarts, JD, Schwarber, and Dahlbeck. They're facing Bruce Zimmerman. I wouldn't expect Zimmerman to go super deep in the games. He's had 2 rehab starts, went 45 and 50 pitches. So I'm guessing probably 60 or so for Zimmerman. Not a full leash, but then going over to the Orioles bullpen. So I do kind of want guys who can hit both righties and lefties. I'm okay bumping up the guys who hit lefties better because they'll face Zimmerman first, but still overall would like some versatility there. So let's go with Dahlbeck. Let's get Renfroe in there. The other Hunter Renfroe. Maybe this is primary Renfroe. We'll say this is primary. I feel better about that. Okay, so if we're trying to get to the Rockies, we need to save some salary. Let's get, I'm guessing we're not going to see Brendan Rodgers. Oh, the lineup is out. What in the world? Okay, go Rockies. Brendan Rodgers is in there. All right. Happy day. Good for him. That was pretty scary last night. So glad to see him playing. We do have Garrett Hampson too. Let's put Rodgers in there first. Put him at shortstop. Let's put Hampson in the outfield. Okay. So if I had to guess, what you're running into, Kyle, is the fact that a lot of these dudes are eligible at the same positions. One way you can navigate around that is you could put Kike Hernandez at second base. Third base might be a bit difficult to fill between these two teams. I think you could go Devers. Devers definitely does get bumped down versus a lefty. So that's not necessarily super desirable. The other issue is we got Diaz and Crone, who are both catcher/first base, in addition to Dahlbeck as well. So from a positional perspective, I get why it can be tough to get the two to mesh. I do think that we can make it work, though, between all these guys. I don't build a full lineup because, ethically questionable to build out a full lineup and give that away. But I think we can make it work. Rodgers has a lot of flexibility. Hampson has flexibility. Third base, maybe you're skewing towards a one-off versus filling that one up. See what positions Jose Iglesias is eligible at. I don't think I'll need to use Iglesias today. Yeah, he's $2,300 catcher or second base / shortstop. I don't think I'll have to go there today. Tomorrow, when it's a Max Scherzer slate, I think that Iglesias is in play versus a lefty. But I think for today, we can make this work. So I would say, Kyle, focus on the mid-range plays. Focus on Dahlbeck. Renfroe is kind of a mid-range play. Focus on Rodgers, Hampson, Diaz, all of those guys in order to give yourself more salary flexibility. Maybe you need a one-off at third base to make it work. But I think between the Red Sox and Rockies, you've got enough mid-range guys to make this work. So I would just kind of focus on the mid-range options, and that should make things a bit easier. One other way to make it easier is by using Logan Webb at pitcher, which is what I want to do for today. So let's go through why I like Webb here briefly. Webb is facing the Diamondbacks. I know Webb was pretty rough last time out, got knocked around, and he went 4 innings. That is the first time he has gone less than 6 innings in now his past 12 starts. So he's had 12 starts with more sinkers. He's gone 6 innings in 11 of those 12. Just happens to be the most recent one is the one where he did not go 6 innings. But 101 pitches for him. The start before that, really good peripheral numbers, 27% strikeout rate in that time, 2.91 skill interactive ERA, a super low fly ball rate allowed, and he's facing the Diamondbacks. So I think Logan Webb is the other route to getting flexibility, Kyle, in terms of your salary to make a Rockies-Red Sox pairing work for today. Let's talk to DJ. I was looking, AJ Alexey did do well against the Angels the last start, but I'm a little wary about his thoughts. You should be wary. His peripherals are really, really tough. He has had 4 outings, Alexey has had. His skill interactive ERA is 6.66, so he's the devil, very clearly. 19% walk rate for Alexey in those 4 starts, 60% fly ball rate. I am much more inclined to stack the Angels than to use Alexey as a result of those peripheral numbers. One thing he has done well is suppress hard contact, 32% hard hit rate allowed. So that's another reason to not be as enthusiastic about the Angels. I just also have trouble finding 4 dudes I really want to use on this team. Let's refresh really quick here to see if the lineup is out. Yeah, you can use Ohtani, you can use Walsh. Marsh is fine. You can go with those guys, but it's not a team I enjoy stacking right now. So Alexey is someone I would steadfastly avoid due to the peripheral numbers. Let's talk to William. William says, just touching down. How do you feel about stacking the Twins? Okay, let's go over here and check out the Twins facing Tyler Alexander. That's not a bad matchup, I would say, William. Alexander, in his past 8 outings with more sinkers, has a 19% strikeout rate, 4.67 skill interactive ERA, good number of fly balls, good amount of hard contact. So that's not a bad matchup. I definitely think that's okay. Issue run into is the Twins haven't been good against lefties for a bit now, but they have been upgraded recently because they've gotten Byron Buxton back. Mitch Garver is back now as well. See if the Twins lineup is out yet. It is not. So I don't think it's bad, William. They're just not a priority for me. So like if you're looking for a team that may go a bit overlooked, maybe the Twins grade out well there. Let's just check out what their implied total is today to see if they are a team likely to generate buzz as a result of what the bookmakers are saying. And the Twins, they're not too high. So William, I think they're fine. Yeah, I can talk myself into that pretty easily. So yeah, I'm not opposed to that, William. I think they are definitely okay. Kyle, is Hilliard usable even though he's batting 8th for Colorado? I'm guessing William is a regular viewer, as I often speak ill of guys batting 8th for a National League team. William, this is Kyle. My bad, Kyle. Kyle, I knew you were regular. I think that it's okay. Hilliard is a lefty. However, his numbers in a very small sample are pretty good against lefties. Let's see here. 51 plate appearances. That's not a whole lot. 277 ISO. So let's pull up the broader sample here on Hilliard. See if we can trust him in a lefty on lefty matchup. So down in AAA, did play pretty well. Let's expand this to last year too, and look at the numbers versus lefties last year to see if what we've seen in a small sample this year is fluky or legitimate. Okay, so in his career versus lefties, 33% strikeout rate, but a 237 ISO, not too bad. Fly ball rate down to 32%. So I would say, Kyle, I'm not super jazzed about Hilliard, but I wouldn't cross him off just because he's batting 8th in a National League park. Usually I do, but I make exceptions for Coors Field. So I feel like Hilliard's upside is muted as a result of that, and because the fly ball rate's pretty low versus lefties, but he's fine. I think that if you need to go there, totally okay. I would not prioritize him. Would not rank him super high within this stack, but he's not a cross-off for me. Let's see what Daza's done versus lefties, 0.95. Yeah, so I'd probably prefer Hilliard over Daza, I guess, if that makes sense, within this stack. So out to Kevin. Should I make this trade? Russ and Chase Edmonds for Joe Burrow and Austin Eckler. Yes. I don't really want Burrow, but I want Eckler, and I'll take that quarterback downgrade and just figure out the quarterback from there. But getting Eckler there is a massive upgrade. William, right now I have the Red Sox, Colorado, and Twins. Thoughts? I don't object to any of those, William. I think they're actually all pretty solid. I might try to make it a bit more stacky and trim it down to just two. If it's like a one-off on the Twins. Like let's say Garver gets in there. I guess it's kind of tough. We want Dahlbeck, we want Crone, we want Diaz and stuff like that. Maybe Garver's not the right guy. But let's say Donaldson. If Donaldson plays, let's see what his salary is. $3,200. We were talking before, William, about how like the Red Sox and the Rockies may not mesh the best because third base is kind of a weak point for the two teams, at least for today, against the lefty. So maybe use Donaldson as like a one-off. I would try to trim it down where you have like 4 of one team, 3 of another, and maybe a one-off with Donaldson to make that fit. But I think all 3 are fine options for stacking today, William. Kevin, I can also trade for either Tannehill or Jared Goff. Get Tannehill. Definitely Tannehill, the best of those options. So if you can get Burrow or a Tannehill over Burrow, I would do that for sure. So we talked about Webb being the top pitcher for today. The other 2 guys I like are both in the same game. That is this one right here, Zach Wheeler versus Charlie Morton. Morton is just under salaried again. He is down at $8,600. So you can have a lot of fun with a Charlie Morton lineup for today because you can get up to, let's just build out a Red Sox stack here. Actually, let's build a Rocky stack. Let's do that first. Let's do Rogers in here at second base. Let's go with Story. Is Crow not in there today? Crone's in there. Okay. Let's go with Crone. And then do we go Hampson and just do 1, 2, 3, 4? Or do we go Diaz? Let's look at this here quick. Okay. Hampson's at 214 against lefties, and Diaz is at 205. Let's go with Hampson. Let's fill that outfield spot. Keep catcher / first base open. If you go with Charlie Morton at $38 or $8,600, you've got a lot of flexibility to have some fun, get the really good players in the Rockies, and still have enough to get up to some good options elsewhere. So I think that Morton works really well. I do prefer Webb, but I do like Morton quite a bit. Wheeler means you'll have to be a bit more cost effective, salary conscious, but that's fine. I think that he's worth that for sure. We can bump Crone down to Diaz and still get a pretty solid Rocky stack here, 2850 left. I think that's totally fine. So I would say ranking for me, Webb 1, Morton 2, Wheeler 3, considering salary. Let's talk to DJ using the Phenom Wainwright. Love that. How would you stack Minnesota, Kansas City, and the Dodgers? Okay, let's go over here. Wainwright I'm not as into just because the strikeout numbers have been lower recently. So his past 11 starts with more sinkers. 18% strikeout rate. He's very good. Just not as good not my favorite for DFS because of the low strikeout rate, but he's a good pitcher. So that does work. As far as Kansas City, the Royals are facing, I can't find them on my sheet. Why can I? Okay, there. Facing Aaron Savali, that's fine. Yeah, that works. The Dodgers are facing Yu Darvish. I know the results have been bad for you recently, but I still wouldn't go there. Over his past 9 starts with more four-seam fastballs, Yu has a 30% strikeout rate still. I would not stack the Dodgers personally. I know the results are what they are, but I would not be going to the Dodgers for today. I know it's been bad, but I personally would not be doing that one. I think the Twins are fine. I think the Royals are fine. Now there's a priority for me, but they are fine, I would say. Let's check to see the Royals lineup, though, because I know Perez got banged up. If Salvador Perez does not go, I'd downgrade the Royals quite a bit. Mondesi works like a one-off, but I would downgrade the Royals quite a bit if he can't go. Salvatore says, sorry I'm late, and Aaron says he's late as well. So welcome, guys. If you want a quick rundown of thoughts for today, pitching for me, Logan Webb 1, Charlie Morton 2, and Zach Wheeler number 3. As far as stacks go, love the Rockies at Coors Field. Pretty big into the Red Sox, facing off with Zimmerman / the Orioles bullpen. And then who was the third stack? I'm trying to remember what the White Sox. White Sox facing Riley O'Brien. I do want to see what their lineup looks like, because if we can get Gavin Sheets in there, we can kind of go nuts with him. He's another guy who's catcher / first base. Kind of annoying. He's batting 8th. I guess it's not as high as I was hoping. But I think that the White Sox do grade out pretty well. And you can get to them from a salary perspective if you go with Webb or Morton as your pitcher. So White Sox, good stack for today as well. Aaron says, beautiful weather here in Minnesota. Aaron, I didn't know you were in the motherland out in Minnesota. Gotta send my warmest regards to the 507 down by Rochester. Let's go, Minnesota. Welcome, Aaron. And hello to Minnesota. Salvatore says he appreciates number fire. It took me a second to realize that was number fire because I am operating a little behind. Still catching up from Sundays because those during NFL season can be a little bit draining for sure. But yes, we appreciate you as well, Salvatore. Michael's posting the Royals lineup. Salvador Perez is in there. Okay, this dude's a tank. Has he ever missed a game like in his life? Has there ever been a baseball game played where Salvador Perez did not play? I am unaware of it if there is one. Okay, so we got hard hit Witt, Lopez. I don't want to go to Benintendi, Santana, Mondesi. So I think that if we're going back to DJ's question about stacking the Royals, I would say get Perez in there, get Mondesi in there. Benintendi's not a guy I typically use, but I feel like he's been doing better recently. But let me dig into this just to make sure I'm not. Because, sometimes we'll see the home run tracker and it'll stick in your brain a little bit too long. Let's check out what Benintendi's done. Let's say since the beginning of September to see if I should be bumping up my thoughts on him here. Okay, let's go over to StatCast and let's go from September 1st through yesterday. Okay. 8.4% barrel rate, pretty in line with his full season number. Same thing with his hard hit rate. Launch angle, about the same as well. Check out the plate discipline numbers. Strikeouts are down a bit. That's good. His ISO 214. So better results for Benintendi in this time. The batted ball data not drastically different, but it's good to see results. Results are results. So I would say if you're trying to stack the Royals, Perez, Mondesi, Benintendi, all guys would be turning towards there. Diffuse, is Wheeler's upside still worth getting up to despite all the high salaried stacks? I would say so. I tend to still find the value to make it work. Great question, Diffuse, because I think on a lot of, I think on this slate, we're going to see a lot of people go down because we've got good pitchers who are a lower side than Wheeler on the road facing Atlanta. Kind of a tough spot for sure. I agree with you that his upside is still worth it. I think that when I'm considering the salary, I'm okay bumping Wheeler down below Webb and Morton, but he's number 3 for me, just for the reasons you mentioned. I think the upside for him is tremendous because Wheeler's a really freaking good pitcher. This is over his past 9 starts with fewer sliders. Usually lowering your slider usage is a bad thing because it's a tough situation. You want sliders for strikeouts, but hasn't mattered for Wheeler. 29% strikeout rate, 26% hard hit rate. He's been awesome. So I think that he's still worth it. I'm okay bumping him down because of that, but I still think he's good, especially the Rockies guys diffuse. Rogers is mid-range salary, Diaz is mid-range salary, Hampson is mid-range salary. You can make a Rocky stack work with Wheeler pretty easily. So yeah, I agree. He's still worth it, but he's number 3 for me tonight behind those other guys. Aaron says Perez missed 145 games in 2020. Is that the ACL year? 2020 didn't play that many games because there was COVID. Whenever he tore his ACL, I think he tore it before opening day. I'd already set some opening day DFS lineups, and I had to redo all of them because he was out. I was very sad about that. But outside of a torn ACL, nothing else can keep Salvador Perez out of the lineup for today. Forever. Kevin says, made the trade and he accepted. Thanks. Congratulations on Austin Eckler. Enjoy. That should be a lot of fun. Kyle, do you like Oakland for one-offs, particularly at third base and outfield? Thanks for the help. So they're facing Tyler Anderson. Anderson does a pretty good job of suppressing our contact, a 30% hard hit rate allowed in his 11 starts to the Mariners. He did get absolutely crushed last time out, which is why he's starting once again here today. But I tend to not use guys against him. Third base and outfield. So Chapman, I'm guessing you're looking at. I can use Chapman against anyone because he's the best hitter in baseball. The one guy I would caution against using if he's in the line today is Chad Pinder. Pinder has been leaving a lot of games early for pinch hitters. So I would be pretty wary of Pinder in terms of looking at outfielders for the A's. I think they're fine for one-offs. Chapman's great. So at third base, if you need to go Chapman, totally fine. I'm okay with that. But I'd be wary of Pinder and an overall not seeking out Oakland because Freeland does a good job, or Anderson, I should say, does a good job of suppressing our contact. So that'd be my one concern there. DJ's asking, do you like Tyler Anderson against the A's? So I was just talking about how I don't want to use guys against him. I also don't want to use him as a pitcher because the strikeout rate is too low. I need a lot of strikeout juice, and Anderson's not going to get me that 18 or 19% strikeout rate. Since he joined the Mariners, he's using a lot of sinkers. That's not super good in terms of getting strikeouts. So I would be okay not using Anderson, but I also don't really want to use guys against him. It's 13-game slate. I need a lot of upside. Anderson's probably not going to be the guy to get that. A's are a low strikeout team, so no Tyler Anderson for me. I'm trying to look through this list here and see if there's anything we have not discussed yet as far as pitchers or stacks. One thing here is Charlie Barnes. I don't know if he's been confirmed as a Twin starter. Let me just do a quick Twitter search here. See if he is confirmed as being the dude for the Twins for today. And because I've been on this stream for a while now and don't see full confirmation that Anderson will start, but Charlie Barnes, I should say. Haven't seen full confirmation yet, but if we assume that he is, I think that you can definitely be okay with a couple of Tigers dudes. Let's see if their lineup is out yet. Yeah. Okay. So I don't mind Haas like a one-off. It's actually a pretty rough lineup. Maybe I shouldn't go in there, but I think the Haas is okay as a one-off there. Let's go to Salvatore at first base. Zimmerman, Sheets, Vaughn. Who is a better play to you? I don't like Vaughn against righties. He's really annoying. Not a lot of power versus righties, and Vaughn is actually not in the lineup for today. So not Vaughn. I do like Sheets. He's batting 8th, which is kind of annoying, but he's got a lot of power. So I definitely feel good about that one. I know Michael mentioned how he's batting 8th. That is annoying. But he's low salaried, access to a good team. I will still use him despite the fact he's batting 8th. Zimmerman facing Freeland at Coors. I think Zimmerman's fine. If he gets in there, he may not play. He doesn't play every day, even against lefties. But I would say Zimmerman over Sheets if we're talking straight up here. What's the salary on that? $2,700. Yeah, if you can get Zimmerman, I would do that if he plays for today. Mike, can we go with Houston against Waka Waka Waka? Okay. Michael Waka. Let's see here. This is over his 5 outings with his cutter usage way down. 29% strikeout rate. Not the best batted ball data, though. So I'd probably avoid Houston for today against Waka. The strikeout numbers are pretty good. Not sure how long he'll go. He tends to be pretty scattershot, went 36 pitches last time out. So I'd probably be lower on Houston personally. There is a path to a good game because the hard contact is there, but Waka's been okay from an underlying number perspective. Michael asking, which White Sox would you prioritize other than Sheets? Sheets is batting 8th. Yeah, it's a bummer. Pretty annoyed about that for sure. But let's just go through a White Sox stack here. Let's put Webb back in a pitcher because I don't think a Wheeler lineup work very well. Let's go Sheets. I know he's batting 8th. Don't care too much just because he's got some juice. Good lineup. I'm okay with it still. Okay. And then let's go here to the White Sox. Mostly because I have to decide who I want to use among the studs here. And it's not easy. It's not easy. Okay. Is Grandal playing today? Yes, indeed he is. Okay. Abreu's been hitting the ball really well since the start of August or so on. I think I was looking at the numbers yesterday. I think it might have been since the All-Star break. Really good numbers for Abreu overall. Even against righties, he's been pretty solid. So I think that's pretty encouraging for him. Tim Anderson gets some good steals. I'm not sure how much he's stealing now given the health situation he's had. So I feel like I'm going to go with Grandal as being the other priority here. I know it does lock up your utility, but I feel like you're just going to have to do that with the White Sox. So let's do that. I want Jimenez and Robert in there if I can get them. So let's try if we can make this work. And that. If you're stacking them with a team that is pretty heavy on outfielders, you need those slots. I'm very okay going Anderson. Moncada, I'm not as into just because the power numbers this entire year, honestly, have been pretty underwhelming. So I would say if you're stacking the White Sox, I would assume you're going to go in using 2 outfield slots and a catcher/first base slot, utility slot. Maybe you can get in Anderson. That's totally fine too. But I think you're going to have to try to game plan around this for a White Sox stack. So Jimenez, Robert, 2 priorities for me. Grandal is a priority. Abreu is a priority. And Sheets, that's 5 dudes. Those are the 5 guys I'd be focusing on most in terms of rotating through there today. Aaron says they're expensive. They are. It's definitely one of the downsides of the White Sox. DJ is asking, how long will Ryu go? Let's go over here and check out some pitch count stuff. Okay. So he missed only 1 start, but I have him projected for 70 pitches for today because he's not fully healthy. The good thing is, like, they've got a lot in the line. Like, they need wins. So, like, if they think he's the best option, they'll keep him out there. But that also means they could go with, like, a playoff type mentality and yank Ryu whenever he starts to struggle, which probably is not the worst idea. So I would say not very long. DJ's asking about Patrick Corbin, stack against him with the Rockies for today. That is all the time that we have here for today on this FanDuel Live Q&A and the Waiver Wire Q&A. As always, do want to give you all a big thank you for tuning in for today. We are back once again tomorrow, just MLB for tomorrow. So I'll be on at 4 to 4:30 on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. Make sure you are subscribed there. Tune in at 4 p.m. to get some MLB DFS thoughts on what is a decently fun slate. There is your sneak peek at the starters for tomorrow in case you want that. Big thank you as well to JJ Zachariason for joining me earlier on, breaking down the waiver wire options for week number 4. We follow JJ on Twitter at Late Round QB. Make sure you check out the Late Round podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also, a thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. Have a good night of MLB DFS for tonight. Good luck with your waivers, and we'll talk to you once again on Wednesday at 4 p.m. This has been the FanDuel Live Q&A.